The millionaire changes the fate of the black beggar woman, carrying her child and weakened Daniel Thornton, a real Wall Street shark, worth billions. Everyone knew his name, his face plastered on magazines, always buying companies, firing people, living like a king. But today, he looked lost, standing in Central Park, leaves crunching under his expensive Italian shoes, staring at her. Sarah, young, way too young to look so tired, huddled on a bench, sharing a beat-up apple with her little boy, Mikey. Mikey was skinny, but his eyes, huge and bright. Even though he looked hungry, he tried to give the last bite back to his mom. Daniel felt something, a knot in his stomach. He hadn't felt anything in years, except the thrill of a deal. He walked over. This was crazy. He never talked to regular people. "Excuse me," he said, his voice softer than usual. "My name is Daniel. Can I help you?" Sarah looked at him like he was nuts. Help? From a guy in a suit that probably cost more than her apartment ever did? "Help how?" she asked, her voice rough. Daniel stumbled. He didn't even know. I have a foundation," he blurted out. Total lie. "We help families, housing, jobs, everything." Hope flickered in Sarah's eyes, then died. Too good to be true, right? But Mikey looked at Daniel, trusting. Ugh, Daniel hated kids. Except not this one. He handed Sarah his card. Heavy, fancy, probably worth more than her week's groceries. Think about it. No pressure. Just think. He turned to go, then stopped. And Sarah? Keep the apple. As Daniel walked away, he felt lighter. Weird. He glanced back. A sleek black car had pulled up beside Sarah. A woman in a sharp suit stepped out, face like ice. She talked to Sarah, then offered her hand. Sarah hesitated, looking back at Daniel, a silent question in her eyes. Who was this woman? And what did she want? Daniel felt a shiver crawl down his spine. He had a bad feeling about this. A really bad feeling. What had he just walked into? Antes de continuarmos com essa história incrível, preciso te fazer alerta importante. Muitos inscritos têm relatado que o YouTube removeu suas inscrições sem aviso. Dá só uma conferida rápida no botão vermelho aí embaixo para garantir que você ainda está inscrito no canal. Não quero que você perca nenhum conteúdo exclusivo que vem por aí. E já que você está aí, deixa aquele like poderoso que me ajuda muito com o algoritmo. E me conta nos comentários de qual cidade você está assistindo. Adoro conhecer cada pessoa incrível que faz parte dessa comunidade. Sua participação faz toda a diferença. Vamos interagir. Daniel walked away feeling lighter. Weird. He glanced back. A sleek black car had pulled up beside Sarah. A woman in a sharp suit stepped out, face like ice. She talked to Sarah, then offered her hand. Sarah hesitated, looking back at Daniel, a silent question in her eyes. Who was this woman? And what did she want? Daniel felt a shiver crawl down his spine. He had a bad feeling about this. A really bad feeling. What had he just walked into? He couldn't shake it, that feeling. Like he'd just walked into a movie scene gone wrong. He almost went back, but nah, he was Daniel Thornton. He didn't interfere. He made deals. Still, the image of Sarah's hesitant look, Mikey's trusting eyes, stuck with him. He went back to his office. The view of the city normally a comfort. Now, just noise. He skipped his usual power lunch. Couldn't even look at the spreadsheets. He called his associate, Jack. Jack was good at digging up dirt. Find out everything you can about a woman named Sarah. Lives somewhere around Central Park. Has a kid, Mikey. Jack didn't ask questions. He just did. Hours crawled by. Finally, the phone rang. "Thornton," Daniel barked. "Got something on your Sarah?" Jack's voice was low, serious, and "it's complicated." Daniel felt that knot tighten again. "Just spit it out, Jack." Sarah Miller, 24 years old. No criminal record. Worked as a waitress until about 6 months ago. Then, nothing. Here's the kicker. The kid, Mikey, he's not hers. Daniel frowned. "What do you mean, not hers?" "He's adopted. Illegally. The adoption was arranged through someone powerful. Very powerful. And they probably don't want anyone sniffing around." Daniel's gut twisted. Illegal adoption? Powerful people? This was getting way out of his league. He should just walk away. But then Jack said, "Oh, and one more thing. The woman who picked her up in the park, her name is Eleanor Vance. She's the actual mother, and she wants Mikey back. Seems Mommy Dearest is a high-powered lawyer who is very ruthless, very wealthy, and has a vendetta. Sarah was paid to disappear with Mikey, and now Eleanor has found her." Daniel stood up abruptly, knocking over a glass of water. He didn't even notice. He stared at the city, the lights blurring. What Sarah was involved in was far darker and bigger than he could ever have imagined. What was he gonna do now? Was he going to save someone or get burned trying? Suddenly, his phone buzzed again. A text from Jack. A picture. It was Sarah, lying on the ground, face down. Mikey was standing beside her, screaming. In the background, Eleanor Vance stood, watching. And next to her, the chilling detail that made Daniel's blood run cold. The woman in a suit was holding a gun. But it wasn't Eleanor. It was Sarah. Daniel's blood ran cold. Sarah? With a gun? It didn't make any sense. He dialed Jack again, hands shaking. "Jack, that woman, Vance. Find out if she has a history with guns. Anything." He had to do something. He grabbed his keys, heading for the door. Screw his schedule, screw his company. He had to get to Central Park. Suddenly, his phone buzzed with a new text message from Jack. "Thornton, I found an article in the Daily Post about Eleanor Vance. Here's the headline. Eleanor Vance, daughter of prominent judge, acquitted of manslaughter charges due to a technicality." Vance was charged in connection to a shooting at a New York City nightclub 5 years ago. As he was walking out his office door, his phone started ringing once more. He immediately recognizes the phone number and answers quickly. It was his ex-wife, Olivia, whom he hasn't talked to in over 8 years. Olivia was an attorney for the city of New York. She was a tough, no-nonsense woman who didn't back down from anyone. "Daniel, it's Olivia." Her voice was serious, businesslike. "I need to speak with you face to face, immediately. It's about Eleanor Vance." Daniel stopped dead in his tracks. What in the world was going on? "Olivia? What is this about? How did you know where I was?" "I don't have time to explain. Just meet me at the courthouse. Now." "And Daniel, be careful. Eleanor Vance is dangerous." The courthouse? Olivia? This was insane. He changed direction, his mind racing. Eleanor Vance, daughter of a judge, acquitted of manslaughter? Olivia calling him after all these years, warning him? He jumped in his car and sped toward the courthouse, weaving through traffic, adrenaline pumping. He tried to call Olivia back, but she didn't answer. He parked haphazardly in front of the courthouse and ran inside. Olivia was waiting for him in the lobby, looking pale and stressed. "Daniel, listen to me," she said, grabbing his arm. "Eleanor Vance isn't just some lawyer trying to get her kid back. She's connected to some very powerful, very dangerous people. This goes way beyond a custody battle." Daniel felt a cold dread wash over him. Connected how? Who are we talking about? Olivia took a deep breath. "There's a secret society, Daniel. It's been around for centuries. They control everything, pull the strings behind the scenes. Eleanor's father was a member. Now she is too. They don't like people interfering with their plans." Daniel stared at her, speechless. A secret society? It sounded like something out of a movie. The adoption? It wasn't just illegal, Olivia continued, her voice barely above a whisper. "Mikey is the sole heir of a fortune so vast, it would make your billions look like pocket change. The society wants to control that fortune. That's why Sarah was paid to disappear with the baby. But Eleanor found her. The society wants to handle Sarah permanently." Suddenly, a man in a dark suit appeared beside Olivia. He put a hand on her shoulder, his face grim. "Olivia, that's enough." Olivia flinched. "Daniel, get out of here. Get as far away from this as you can. It's not worth it." The man pulled Olivia away, leading her down a hallway. She looked back at Daniel, her eyes pleading. He stood there, frozen. A secret society? A vast fortune? This was no longer about helping a woman and her child. This was something much, much bigger. Then his phone rang again. It was Jack. "Thornton, you won't believe this." Jack's voice was trembling. "Sarah wasn't pointing a gun at the woman in the suit. She was pointing it at herself." Daniel stared, numb. Sarah? Pointing a gun at herself? It didn't compute. Jack was yelling something else, but the words wouldn't form in Daniel's brain. Just a buzzing, a static, the image of that grainy photo seared onto his retinas. He hung up, didn't even apologize to Jack. Olivia. He had to find Olivia. He spun around, nearly knocking over a court officer. "Where's Olivia?" "The attorney." "Olivia! Damn it!" He couldn't even remember her last name. "Easy, pal," the officer said, grabbing his arm. "Who are you looking for?" "The woman who was just here, with the man in the suit. They just went that way." Daniel pointed frantically down the hallway. The officer frowned. "Look, mister, I haven't seen anyone like that. You need to calm down." "Calm down? Calm down?" Sarah was about to. He pushed past the officer, running down the hallway. Doors lined both sides, all looking the same. Where would they take her? He stopped, listening. Nothing. Just the hum of the building, the distant sound of a judge's gavel. Then he heard it, a faint sob, coming from behind a heavy oak door marked Records. He didn't hesitate. He slammed his shoulder against the door. Once, twice, until the lock splintered and the door flew open. Olivia was there, on the floor, slumped against a filing cabinet. The man in the suit was gone. "Olivia!" He rushed to her, kneeling beside her. "What happened? Are you okay?" She looked up at him, eyes wide, with terror. "Daniel, you have to get out of here. They know about you. They know everything." "Who knows?" He helped her sit up. "What's going on, Olivia?" She took a shuddering breath. "The society, they're everywhere. They control everything. Even the police, the judges, everyone." "But Sarah," he showed her the picture on his phone. "She was going to kill herself. Why?" Olivia's face crumpled. "It's a game to them, Daniel. They manipulate people, push them to the edge. They probably promised her Mikey would be safe, that she'd be doing the right thing. They're masters of deception." Suddenly, a voice boomed from the doorway. "Daniel Thornton, you're interfering." Daniel looked up. Standing in the doorway was Eleanor Vance. But it wasn't just her. Behind her stood two men in dark suits, their faces blank, menacing. Eleanor smiled, a cold, cruel smile. "You should have stayed out of this, Daniel. But now, you're going to pay the price." Daniel stood up, shielding Olivia with his body. "What do you want, Eleanor? Just leave Sarah and Mikey alone." Eleanor laughed. "It's too late for that, Daniel. Sarah made her choice, and as for Mikey, he's going to his rightful place, with me." One of the men in suits stepped forward, reaching for Daniel. Daniel braced himself for a fight. Then, everything went black. He woke up in a hospital bed. His head was pounding, his body ached. Olivia was sitting beside him, her face drawn and tired. "What happened?" he croaked. "They knocked you out," Olivia said, her voice low. "They took you away from the courthouse. I barely got out alive." "Sarah? Mikey?" Olivia shook her head. "I don't know, Daniel. I don't know anything anymore. This is bigger than both of us. We're dealing with people who have no conscience, no limits." He sat up, swinging his legs over the side of the bed. "I have to find them, Olivia. I can't just give up." Olivia grabbed his arm. "Daniel, listen to me. You can't win this. They're too powerful. You have to let it go." He looked at her, his eyes blazing. "Let it go? They're going to kill Sarah, Olivia. And Mikey, they're going to raise him to be one of them. I can't let that happen." He stood up, pulling away from her. "I'm going to find them, Olivia, and I'm going to stop them. No matter what it takes." As he reached the door, Olivia said softly, "Daniel, there's something else you need to know." He turned back to her, waiting. "Eleanor Vance, she's not just connected to the society," Olivia said, her voice trembling. She's your sister." He turned back to her, waiting. "Eleanor Vance, she's not just connected to the society," Olivia said, her voice trembling. She's your sister." "My sister? What?" My head was already throbbing, and this felt like another blow. Eleanor Vance, a cold-blooded society puppet? My sister? I knew nothing about my family, okay? I was raised in foster care after my parents died. That's impossible," I stammered. But even as I said it, a flicker of something went through my mind. A memory. Vague, but there. A little girl with dark hair, like Eleanor's, playing in a garden. Me too, probably. Olivia just looked at me, her eyes full of pity. Her father? He was your father too, Daniel. Different mothers, but same father. Okay, this had to be a dream. A really messed up, over-the-top dream. I ran a hand through my hair, trying to make sense of it. Eleanor Vance, my sister, part of a secret society, trying to steal a kid worth millions. It was like some twisted soap opera. How How do you know this? I asked. I did some digging, Daniel. After you told me about Sarah, the records are sealed, but I have my ways. Your father, he wasn't a good man. He had a lot of secrets. And Eleanor, she knew about you. She knew all along. A cold feeling spread through me. Eleanor knew? And she didn't say anything? She let me stumble into this mess, knowing we were related? That was messed up. Seriously messed up. I had to find Sarah and Mikey before Eleanor or her society friends got to them. But how? Where would they take them? Then it hit me. The garden in my memory. There was a gate, a fountain. It was a place, a real place. One that stuck in my head even. After years in foster care. I know where they are, I said, grabbing Olivia's hand. I know where she's taken them. Daniel, you can't go back there. It's too dangerous, Olivia protested, trying to pull me back. I have to, Olivia. I can't let them get away with this. I had to save Sarah and Mikey, and I also needed some answers from my newfound sister. My messed up sister. I ran out of the hospital, leaving Olivia behind. I had a bad feeling. A really bad feeling. But I couldn't shake it. Something told me that whatever was waiting for me, it would change everything. But I was going to save Sarah and Mikey. The garden was outside of the city, in a big estate, in an old building. It was a place where rich, powerful people could hide their secrets. I broke into the place in the middle of the night. The guard was easy to take care of, and then I was inside. I found Sarah and Mikey tied up in a room. They were scared, but alive. As I untied them, I heard a voice behind me. Hello, Daniel. I turned around. It was Eleanor. She was holding a gun. I never wanted it to come to this, she said, her voice cold. But you left me no choice. Why, Eleanor? Why are you doing this? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. I'm doing what I have to do, for the society, for my family, for the future, she said. And what about Sarah and Mikey? Are they just pawns in your game? Eleanor didn't answer. She just raised the gun. That was when I saw her. A woman I thought I would never see again. Standing behind Eleanor, a ghost from my past. Mom, but that was impossible. Hello, Daniel. I turned around. It was Eleanor. She was holding a gun. I never wanted it to come to this, she said, her voice cold. But you left me no choice. Why, Eleanor? Why are you doing this? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. I'm doing what I have to do, for the society, for my family, for the future, she said. And what about Sarah and Mikey? Are they just pawns in your game? Eleanor didn't answer. She just raised the gun. That was when I saw her. A woman I thought I would never see again. Standing behind Eleanor, a ghost from my past. Mom. But that was impossible. My mom died when I was a kid. A car accident. That's what I always heard. But there she was. Older, yeah, but it was her. Her eyes, that same look. She was wearing a fancy suit, like she was one of Eleanor's society pals. But, Mom? Eleanor froze. The gun wavered. She turned, a look of disbelief on her face. Mom? What are you doing here? My mom didn't say anything. She just looked at me, her eyes filled with tears. Then, she lunged at Eleanor. A shot rang out. Everything went into slow motion. I saw Eleanor fall, Mom standing over her, the gun now, in her hand. Sarah screamed. Mikey started crying. Daniel, Mom's voice was shaky. She looked at me like I was a ghost. I can explain. Explain? What was there to explain? My dead mom was alive and had just shot my sister. My brain felt like it was going to explode. Mom, what is going on? I managed to choke out. She took a step towards me, then stopped. I had to protect you, Daniel. From them. From who? What are you talking about? She looked at Eleanor, lying on the floor, then back at me. The society, Daniel. They're evil. They took me years ago. They made me do things, terrible things. I faked my death to get away from them, to protect you. Faked her death? This was insane. My whole life was a lie. Eleanor groaned. Mom pointed the gun at her again. Don't move, Eleanor. Don't even breathe. Eleanor looked up at Mom, her face twisted with hatred. You can't do this, Mom. They'll kill you. Mom's face hardened. I don't care anymore, Eleanor. I'm done with them. I'm saving my son. She looked back at me, her eyes pleading. Daniel, you have to get out of here. Take Sarah and Mikey. Run. Don't trust anyone. But, Mom, no buts, Daniel. Go, now. I didn't know what to do. Everything was happening so fast. I grabbed Sarah's hand, pulled Mikey close. Come on, I said. We have to go. We ran. Out of the room, out of the house, into the night. I didn't look back. I couldn't. I had so many questions. About Mom, about Eleanor, about the society. But right now, all I could think about was getting Sarah and Mikey to safety. As we ran, I glanced back at the estate. I saw a figure standing in the window, watching us. It was Mom. She raised her hand, a silent farewell. Then the whole place exploded. A huge fireball lit up the night sky. I stumbled. Sarah screamed. I covered Mikey's eyes, shielding him from the blast. When the smoke cleared, the estate was gone. Reduced to rubble. Mom was gone. I stood there, numb. Everything I thought I knew was wrong. My sister was part of a secret society. My mom was alive, then dead again. And I was running for my life with a woman and child I barely knew. What the hell was I supposed to do now? I pulled Sarah and Mikey closer and started running. We had to disappear. We had to get as far away from this mess as possible. But I knew, deep down, that they would find us. The society always found their own. And I had a feeling this was far from over. We had to disappear. We had to get as far away from this mess as possible. But I knew, deep down, that they would find us. The society always found their own. And I had a feeling this was far from over. We ran for what felt like forever. Sarah was a mess, crying, but she kept going. Mikey, bless his heart, just clung to my leg, silent. I had no idea where we were going, just away. We found an old, abandoned motel on the outskirts of town. It was a dump, but it was shelter. I paid the creepy guy at the front desk cash, no questions asked. Didn't even give him my name. Inside, the room stank of mildew and stale smoke, but it had a bed, a bathroom, and a lock on the door. We were safe, for now. I sat Sarah and Mikey down on the bed. Okay, I said, trying to sound calm. We need a plan. Sarah just shook her head, tears streaming down her face. There's no plan, Daniel. They'll find us. They always do. Not if we disappear, I said. Change our names, our looks, everything. Where are we even going to go? Sarah asked, her voice barely a whisper. I didn't know. I had no money, no connections, no family. Except Eleanor and Mom. Great. Mikey tugged on my sleeve. I'm hungry, he said. Right. Food. We needed food. I'll be right back, I said. Stay here, and don't open the door for anyone. I went back to the creepy motel guy and bought some snacks from the vending machine. Chips, cookies, soda. Not exactly a gourmet meal, but it was something. When I got back to the room, the door was open. My heart stopped. Sarah? Mikey? The room was empty. The window was open, the curtains billowing in the breeze. They were gone. Panic clawed at my throat. They couldn't have just vanished. I ran outside, searching, calling their names. Nothing. Then I saw it. A note lying on the ground near the window. I picked it up, my hands shaking. It was addressed to me. Daniel, it read. Don't look for us. We're better off without you. They promised us safety, a new life. Just leave us alone. It was signed, Sarah. No. No way. Sarah would never leave me. Not after everything we'd been through. This was a lie, a trick. The society got to her. They forced her to write this. But what if it was true? What if Sarah really thought she and Mikey would be safer without me? After all, I had brought nothing but chaos and danger into their lives. I crumpled the note in my fist, rage building inside me. They weren't going to get away with this. They weren't going to take Sarah and Mikey from me. I was going to find them. No matter what it took, I turned to go, ready to start searching, when I heard a voice behind me. Looking for someone, Daniel? I spun around. Standing there bathed in the moonlight was Mom. But it wasn't Mom. Not really. Her eyes were different. Colder, harder. And she was smiling. A smile that didn't reach her eyes. You thought you could get away from us, Daniel? She said, her voice smooth and silky. You thought you could escape the society? How naive. You're not my mom, I said, my voice trembling. She laughed. Oh, Daniel, I am your mom, but I'm also so much more. I'm a member of the society, and I'm here to bring you home. Home? What was she talking about? You lied to me, I said, my voice rising, about everything. About my father, about the car accident, about everything. I did what I had to do, Daniel, she said, her voice softening. To protect you from the truth. The truth? I scoffed. What is the truth, Mom? That you're a cold-blooded killer? That you blew up my sister? That you're part of some crazy secret society? She sighed. It's complicated, Daniel. You wouldn't understand. Try me, I said, my fists clenching. She took a step closer to me, her eyes searching mine. The society, Daniel. It's not just about power and wealth. It's about blood, about destiny. And you, Daniel, you're one of us. You always have been. No, I said, shaking my head. I'm not like you. I'm not like them. You are, Daniel, she said, her voice firm. You just don't know it yet. She reached out to touch me, but I flinched away. I couldn't believe it. My own mother, a member of the society, a liar, a murderer. Where's Sarah? I demanded. Where's Mikey? She smiled again, that cold, cruel smile. Safe, Daniel. They're safe, as long as you cooperate. Cooperate? What do you want? I want you to come home, Daniel, to join us, to embrace your destiny. I stared at her, my mind reeling. Join the society? Become one of them? Never. I'll never join you, I said, my voice toward him. I'd rather die. Her smile vanished. Her eyes hardened. Then I'm afraid I have no choice, Daniel. She raised her hand, and two men in dark suits stepped out of the shadows. They were the same men who had kidnapped me at the courthouse. Take him, she said, her voice cold. Bring him home, by any means necessary. As the men grabbed me, I looked at my mother. My heart breaking. How could she do this? How could she betray me like this? I hate you, I said, my voice filled with venom. She didn't flinch. She just looked at me, her eyes empty. As I was dragged away, I saw something in her eyes. Something I hadn't seen before. Fear. What was she afraid of? What was she hiding? And then it hit me. She wasn't the leader of the society. She was just a pawn, just like me. But who was pulling the strings? Who was really in charge? As I was shoved into a black car, I knew one thing for sure. This wasn't just about Sarah and Mikey anymore. This was about something much bigger, something much darker, and I was right in the middle of it. The car sped away, leaving the motel behind. As we drove, I glanced back. I saw my mother standing there, alone, and then she vanished into thin air. How was that possible? Where did she go? And then I realized she didn't vanish. She was never really there. It was an illusion, a projection, a trick. She wasn't really my mother. But if she wasn't my mother, then who was she? And what did she want from me? I was more lost than ever, trapped in a web of lies and deceit, with no one to trust and no way out. The car sped away, leaving the motel behind. As we drove, I glanced back. I saw my mother standing there, alone, and then she vanished into thin air. How was that possible? Where did she go? And then I realized she didn't vanish. She was never really there. It was an illusion, a projection, a trick. She wasn't really my mother. But if she wasn't my mother, then who was she? And what did she want from me? I was more lost than ever, trapped in a web of lies and deceit, with no one to trust and no way out. The men in suits didn't say a word, just stared straight ahead like robots. I tried to open the door, but it was locked. Of course it was. We drove for hours, out of the city into the countryside. I had no idea where we were going. I just knew it wasn't good. Finally, the car stopped in front of a huge, imposing mansion. It looked like something out of a movie. Stone walls, dark windows, a gate with scary gargoyles on top. "Get out," one of the men said, his voice cold and emotionless. I didn't move. He grabbed my arm, yanked me out of the car. I stumbled, nearly fell. "Move," he said, shoving me towards the gate. The gate swung open, creaking like something out of a horror movie. We walked up a long, winding driveway to the front door. The door was massive, made of dark wood, with a heavy iron knocker. One of the men knocked 3 times. A pause. Then 3 more times. The door swung open. A woman stood there, silhouetted against the light. "Welcome home, Daniel," she said, her voice smooth and silky. She stepped aside, and I saw who it was. Olivia, my ex-wife, the attorney, the one who warned me about Eleanor Vance. She was smiling, a real smile, a smile that reached her eyes. What is this, Olivia?" I stammered. "This is where you belong, Daniel," she said. "With us. With the society? You're one of them?" She nodded. "I always have been, Daniel. Just like you." No, this couldn't be happening. Olivia, a member of the society? It was too much to take in. "But you warned me about them," I said. "You said they were dangerous." She laughed. "I was just playing my part. Daniel, to gain your trust. It worked, didn't it?" I stared at her, my mind reeling. Everything she had told me, everything I thought I knew about her, it was all a lie. "Why, Olivia? Why did you do this?" "Because you're important, Daniel," she said. "You have a destiny to fulfill, and we need you." "For what? To steal children? To kill people? To control the world?" She shrugged. "Whatever it takes, Daniel, to achieve our goals." "I'll never join you," I said, my voice shaking. "I'd rather die." Her smile faded. "You don't have a choice, Daniel," she said. "You're one of us now, whether you like it or not." She snapped her fingers, and the men in suits grabbed me again. They dragged me inside the mansion. I struggled, fought, but it was no use. They were too strong. As they dragged me down a long, dark hallway, I saw something that made my blood run cold. Sarah and Mikey. They were standing at the end of the hallway, looking at me. Sarah's eyes were empty, lifeless. Mikey was clinging to her leg, his face pale and scared. "Sarah!" I shouted. "Mikey, get away from them!" But they didn't move. They just stood there, staring. Then Sarah smiled. A cold, cruel smile. "It's okay, Daniel," she said, her voice flat and emotionless. "We're safe now. We're where we belong." No, no way. Sarah would never say that. Not unless... Then I saw it. A small, almost imperceptible mark on her neck. A mark I had seen before. On Olivia, on the fake mom. It was a symbol of the society. A mark of ownership. They had brainwashed her, controlled her mind, turned her into one of them. And then I realized something even more terrifying. Mikey, he wasn't clinging to Sarah's leg out of fear. He was clinging to her leg out of recognition, out of belonging. I looked closer at his face, at his eyes, and I saw it. The same mark, hidden behind his ear. Mikey wasn't just some random kid. He wasn't just the heir to a fortune. He was one of them. He had been all along. The whole thing had been a setup, a game, a way to lure me in. And I had fallen for it. Hook, line, and sinker. I was trapped, surrounded by enemies, with no one to trust. And then Olivia said something that made my blood run colder than ice. "Welcome to the family, Daniel." She smiled again, a warm, inviting smile. "It's time you met your father. It's time you met your father." "Meu pai? Que pai? Eu nunca conheci meu pai. Aquela mulher que se dizia minha mãe, tinha me contado uma história toda furada sobre um acidente de carro. Será que tudo era mentira? Será que meu pai estava vivo? A Olivia sorriu mais ainda, pegou na minha mão, me puxou para dentro na sala. Os caras de preto me empurraram também, sem delicadeza nenhuma. A Sarah e o Mikey estavam lá, parados, olhando para o nada. Pareciam bonecos. A sala era enorme, cheia de quadros antigos, móveis de madeira escura. No fundo, uma lareira gigante com um fogo crepitando. E na frente da lareira, um homem. Ele era alto, magro, com cabelos brancos e um olhar intenso. Vestia um terno escuro, impecável, parecia um rei. Daniel, ele disse, a voz calma, forte. Finalmente, esperei muito por esse dia. Eu não conseguia falar nada, só olhar para ele. Quem era esse cara? Por que ele estava me chamando de filho? Eu sou seu pai, Daniel, ele disse, como se tivesse lido meus pensamentos. Meu nome é Richard Thornton. Thornton? O mesmo sobrenome que eu. Então era verdade. A Olivia não estava mentindo. A mãe não era minha mãe. E esse cara, você mentiu para mim a vida toda. Eu consegui dizer, a voz tremendo. Ele assentiu. Eu tive que proteger você, Daniel. Proteger você da verdade. Que verdade? Que você é um monstro? Que você faz parte de uma sociedade secreta? Ele sorriu. A sociedade é muito mais do que você imagina, Daniel. É o futuro. É o poder. E agora, você faz parte disso. Ele estendeu a mão para mim. Venha, Daniel, junte-se a nós. Seja meu herdeiro. Seja meu filho. Eu não sabia o que fazer. Olhei para Olivia, para Sarah, para o Mikey. Eles me encaravam, esperando. E então, a porta se abriu. E quem entrou foi a Eleanor, minha irmã. Só que ela não estava machucada, não estava morta. Ela estava sorrindo. E do lado dela, a mãe. As duas de braços dados. A mãe sorriu para mim. Aquele sorriso frio, calculista. Surpresa, Daniel? Ela disse. Achou mesmo que ia se livrar de nós? E foi aí que eu entendi. A Eleanor e a mãe não eram inimigas. Eram parceiras. Estavam juntas nessa desde o começo. A mãe nunca tinha sido sequestrada. A Eleanor nunca tinha sido enganada. Elas estavam me usando. As duas. E o pior, elas estavam rindo. Rindo de mim. A Eleanor deu um passo para frente. Pegou na minha mão. Bem-vindo à família, Daniel, ela disse. Agora as coisas vão ficar interessantes. E aí, tudo ficou preto. Tudo ficou preto. Apagão total. Quando acordei, estava amarrado numa cadeira. A sala era escura, fria, úmida. Cheirava a mofo e sangue. Richard Thornton estava na minha frente, sorrindo. A Olivia, a Eleanor, a mãe, o Mikey, todos lá, me encarando. Bem-vindo à família, Daniel, Richard disse. Agora você vai entender tudo. Eles começaram a falar. Sobre a sociedade, sobre o poder, sobre o meu destino, sobre como eu era especial, sobre como eles precisavam de mim. Eu não escutava. Só conseguia pensar na Sarah. Onde ela estava? O que tinham feito com ela? Onde está a Sarah? Eu gritei. Richard riu. A Sarah está segura, Daniel. Ela está fazendo o que tem que fazer. Mentira! Ele fez um sinal. A Olivia se aproximou. Na mão, uma seringa. Não! Eu gritei. Ela enfiou a agulha no meu braço. Uma dor lancinante. E então, o vazio. Eu acordei de novo. Num lugar diferente. Um quarto branco, sem janelas. A Sarah estava lá, do meu lado, sorrindo. Daniel. Ela disse, que bom que você acordou. Estávamos te esperando. Ela pegou na minha mão. A pele. Dela fria, sem vida. Nós somos uma família agora, Daniel. Ela disse, para sempre. O Mikey entrou no quarto, também sorrindo, os olhos vazios. Eles se aproximaram de mim, cada vez mais perto. Eu tentei gritar, mas não consegui. Eu estava preso. Preso na família. Preso na sociedade. Preso para sempre. Mas espere. Alguma coisa estava errada. Eu olhei para as minhas mãos. Elas estavam tremendo. E nos olhos da Sarah, uma lágrima. Será que ainda havia esperança? Será que eu ainda podia lutar? Será que eu ainda podia escapar? A resposta está em você. Você precisa se inscrever agora. Não perca o próximo capítulo. A verdadeira conclusão desta saga. Clique no botão vermelho e garanta seu acesso. Esmague o botão de like agora. Mostre seu apoio, alimente o algoritmo e deixe sua marca de verdadeiro fã. Este é o momento de agir. Inunde a seção de comentários. Deixe suas teorias, suas reações, seus palpites. Queremos saber o que você achou desse final. Compartilhe instantaneamente. Envie este vídeo para 5 amigos que precisam conhecer este desfecho. Não espere nem mais um segundo. Apenas os verdadeiros fãs entendem a importância de cada ação. Demonstre seu apoio e faça parte da nossa comunidade. O futuro da história está em suas mãos.